When the investigator said my name, I understood one thing immediately. Captain Hayes had given me up. He had not just stepped aside. He had not just gotten scared. He had already told the story like I was the one who made the decision that night. And the worst part was, I really had stayed silent. 3 days earlier, I was standing beside a military jeep on a dark road outside the base in North Carolina. It was almost midnight, and the air smelled like wet asphalt and pine trees. The headlights cut through the darkness in narrow white lines. I still remember the sound of the engine clicking softly after it stopped. My name was Rachel Miller. I was 37 years old. I had served in the United States Army for almost 15 years. I was not a movie hero. I simply knew the rules. I knew the chain of command. And I knew one lie in the Army could break a person's entire life. That was exactly why I should have gone straight to the duty officer that night. But I did not. Captain Adam Hayes stood in front of me without his cap, with a pale face and a scratch on his cheek. He had only been my commander for 5 months, but he had already learned how to make people trust him. He spoke calmly. He smiled at the right moments. He never raised his voice without a reason. To the younger soldiers, he seemed like an honest leader. To me, he was the man who had given me a chance after the hardest year of my life. After my divorce, I was barely holding myself together. My ex-husband had left me with debt, an empty house, and a son who asked every night why his dad did not call anymore. I did not talk about it at work. I just showed up early, worked harder, and acted like everything was under control. Captain Hayes noticed. He signed a strong recommendation for me. He let me take shifts that allowed me to get home to my son. Once he even said, "Staff Sergeant Miller, the Army is held together by people like you." After something like that, it becomes hard to say no to a person, even when that person asks you to do the wrong thing. That night, he called me personally. Not through an official channel. Not through the duty desk. Just directly on my phone. "Rachel, I need help," he said. There was no order in his voice. There was fear. I drove out because I thought something serious had happened. Maybe someone was hurt. Maybe one of our people was in trouble. But when I saw the Jeep on the side of the road, I knew right away the problem was not accidental. The front bumper was crushed. Pieces of red plastic were scattered on the ground. And a little farther away, behind the bushes, I saw a damaged civilian vehicle. An old blue pickup truck sat crooked, like it had been shoved hard from the side. No one was nearby. The doors were closed. The driver's side window had a spiderweb crack across it. I froze. "Who was in the pickup?" I asked. Captain Hayes quickly wiped his face with his sleeve. "No one." I checked. He said it too fast. That was when I should have stopped. I should have stepped back. I should have said we were calling military police right then. But he moved closer and lowered his voice. I drove out without filing the proper paperwork. I had to meet someone. It was personal. I know it was a mistake. I looked at him and could not believe it. A company commander. A military vehicle. Nighttime. A road outside the base. A damaged civilian truck. This was no longer a small thing. "Sir, this has to be reported," I said. He nodded like he agreed. But his eyes had turned colder. "I will report it. Just not right now." I stayed silent. "Tomorrow morning, I will fix everything. I only need you to confirm one thing." Something tightened inside me. "What thing?" He looked straight at me. "Say the Jeep was in the motor pool until morning. If anyone asks." I did not even answer right away. For a second, I thought I had heard him wrong. "Sir, that is not true. It is temporary," he said. "Just to keep this from turning into a scandal." Then he mentioned my promotion. Not directly. Not cruelly. But clearly enough. He said he knew how hard I had worked. He said the board would be reviewing my packet soon. He said one mess in the company could damage everyone's reputation. And he said that I, as an experienced staff sergeant, understood the difference between a real problem and a paperwork storm. I stood there and hated myself for listening. Because a part of me was already searching for excuses. No one was hurt. He would file the report himself. I would only avoid saying too much. It was not lying if nobody asked me directly. That is how the worst decisions begin. Not with one big crime, But with a small, I will just stay quiet. I helped him bring the Jeep back onto the base. I did not touch the paperwork. I did not sign any reports. I did not make up a story out loud. I just opened the gate with my access and told the soldier on duty that the captain had been checking equipment after training. That was the first lie. It sounded almost ordinary. The soldier on duty did not even look up. And I felt something inside me quietly crack. The next morning, Captain Hayes acted like nothing had happened. He drank coffee in the office, laughed with the lieutenant, and looked over the training schedule. When I walked in, he did not even look at me right away. Only later, as he passed by, he quietly said, "Thank you, Rachel. I will not forget this." That should have made me feel better. But it only made things worse. Because that same afternoon, military police arrived on base. They did not go to him. They came to me. One of them was holding a folder. The other looked at me like he already knew the answer. "Staff Sergeant Miller," he said, "we need to talk about a military jeep you allegedly moved that night." I opened my mouth, but the words got stuck. Because only then did I understand. Captain Hayes had not just asked me to stay silent. He had already made me part of his story. The room they took me to was too cold. That was the first thing I noticed. Not the folder. Not the cameras. Not the two military police officers sitting across from me like I had already disappointed them. The cold. It settled into my hands, my jaw, my chest. I kept my back straight because that was what 15 years in uniform had taught me. But inside, I felt like I was standing on thin ice. The investigator introduced himself as Sergeant First Class Nolan. He was calm, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "Staff Sergeant Miller," he said, "we are trying to understand the timeline." I nodded once. That was all I trusted myself to do. He opened the folder and slid out a printed photo. It showed the Jeep at the gate, coming back onto base at 12:41 a.m. My stomach dropped. The camera had caught everything. Then he placed another photo beside it. This one showed me standing near the driver's side door. Not Captain Hayes. Me. The angle was bad. The image was grainy. But my face was clear enough. "Can you explain why you were with that vehicle?" he asked. For 1 second, I almost told the truth. I felt it rise in my throat like a cough. Captain Hayes called me. He hit a civilian truck. He asked me to lie. I was scared. I made a mistake. But then I remembered my son. I remembered the promotion board. I remembered Captain Hayes saying he would fix everything. And I made the second mistake. I was asked to assist with vehicle return, I said. Nolan watched my face. By who? The answer was simple. It sat right there between us. But my mouth would not say it. "Captain Hayes," I finally said. Nolan wrote something down. "And did Captain Hayes tell you where that vehicle had been?" "He said he was checking equipment after training." The lie came out smoother this time. That scared me more than anything. Because the first lie had shaken me. The second one adjusted itself to my voice. Nolan leaned back and studied me for a long moment. "Staff Sergeant, did you personally inspect the vehicle?" "No." "Did you notice damage?" I hesitated. Just a little. But he caught it. "Minor damage," I said. "To the bumper." "Minor?" He placed another photo on the table. This one was closer. The front of the Jeep was crushed harder than I remembered. The metal was bent inward. A streak of blue paint marked the corner like a fingerprint. I stared at it too long. Nolan's voice stayed even. "A civilian truck was found off Old Mill Road that night. The owner reported it the next morning." My heart started pounding. "The owner?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked up. "Yes." I swallowed. "So someone was involved?" His eyes changed then. Just slightly. That was when I knew I had revealed too much. He did not answer my question directly. Instead, he slid a third photograph across the table. It showed the blue pickup from the road. Only this time, the driver's side door was open. There was blood on the cracked glass. Not a lot, but enough. My hands went cold again. Captain Hayes had said nobody was inside. He had looked me in the eye and said he checked. "Was someone hurt?" I asked. Nolan closed the folder halfway. "A civilian was treated at a local emergency room." The room seemed to tilt around me. I saw the road again. The wet asphalt. the broken plastic, the bushes moving in the wind. I remembered how fast Captain Hayes had answered when I asked who was in the truck. No one. I checked. He had lied before I ever did. And still, I had helped him. Nolan folded his hands on the table. Here is the problem, Staff Sergeant. Captain Hayes states he was not driving that vehicle. For a moment, I did not understand the words. They sounded clear, but my mind rejected them. What? He states the vehicle had been signed out earlier by you. My chest tightened so hard I almost could not breathe. That is not true. According to the preliminary statement, you took the Jeep off post for an unauthorized personal errand. I shook my head. No, absolutely not. He also says he later discovered the damage and instructed you to report it. I stared at him. The room went silent except for the vent above us. That small metal hum suddenly sounded enormous. He said that. I whispered. Nolan did not look pleased. He did not look sorry either. He looked like a man who had heard hundreds of denials. Is that inaccurate? A laugh almost came out of me. Not because anything was funny, because the lie was so clean it felt rehearsed. Captain Hayes had not panicked. He had not improvised. Somewhere between that dark road and this room, he had built a version of events where I was careless, dishonest, and desperate. And I had handed him the tools. My gate access. My silence. My nervous answer to the soldier on duty. Even my loyalty. All of it pointed back at me. I need to make a statement, I said. You are making one now. No, I said, more sharply than I meant to. A real one. Nolan paused. For the first time, he seemed interested. I opened my mouth. But then the door behind me opened. A young legal officer stepped in and whispered something to him. Nolan's face changed as he listened. He glanced at me once, then closed the folder fully. Staff Sergeant Miller, he said, we are stopping this interview for now. Why? He stood. Because this is no longer just an administrative matter. The words hit me like cold water. I pushed back my chair. What does that mean? He did not answer right away. Then he said the one sentence that made my knees feel weak. The civilian driver has filed a formal complaint, and your name is in it. I walked out of that room with my uniform still perfect. But everything beneath it was falling apart. And when I reached my office, Captain Hayes was waiting by my desk, smiling like nothing had happened. Captain Hayes smiled like he had been expecting me. Not worried. Not ashamed. Just calm. He stood beside my desk with one hand in his pocket, looking at the framed photo of my son. Ethan was 10 in that picture, missing one front tooth, holding a baseball glove too big for his hand. Seeing Hayes near that photo made my skin crawl. Rough afternoon, he asked. I stopped in the doorway. For a second, I could not speak. The hallway behind me was busy. Soldiers passed with folders, coffee cups, and half-finished conversations. Everything looked normal. That was the cruelest part. My whole life had just cracked open, and the building kept breathing like nothing had happened. You told them I took the Jeep, I said. His smile faded, but only a little. Close the door, Rachel. I did not move. Close the door, he repeated, softer this time. That softness scared me more than anger would have. I stepped inside and shut it behind me. My hand stayed on the knob longer than it should have. Some part of me wanted to open it again and walk straight to legal. But I turned around. Hayes took a slow breath, like he was preparing to explain something to a child. You need to understand how this looks, he said. I stared at him. How this looks? You were seen with the vehicle. You used your access. You spoke to the gate guard. Because you called me. I called you for assistance. No, I said. You called me because you hit a civilian truck. His eyes sharpened. Careful. That one word told me everything. This was not a misunderstanding anymore. This was a threat wearing a uniform. I felt heat rise in my face, but my voice stayed low. You said nobody was inside. He looked away for half a second. Just half a second. But I saw it. I checked the area, he said. There was blood on the window. His jaw tightened. You saw photos. Yes. Then you also know this is serious. I almost laughed. He had dragged me into a lie, then used the truth like a weapon. Why is my name in the complaint? I asked. Hayes rubbed his forehead, pretending to be tired. Because civilians do not understand military procedure. They hear one name, they repeat it. These things get messy. Did you give them my name? He did not answer. That silence felt louder than any confession. I stepped closer to my desk. You gave them my name. I protected the unit, he said. No, you protected yourself. His face changed then. The mask slipped just enough. You think you are the only person with something to lose? There it was. The real Hayes. Not the commenter. Not the respected officer. Not the man who had signed my recommendation and praised my work. A man cornered by his own mistake. And willing to throw me under it. My promotion packet is on your desk, I said quietly. He glanced down. It was there in a neat brown folder. My whole year of extra shifts, clean evaluations, leadership courses, and missed weekends with Ethan. All of it stacked inside paper and signatures. Hayes tapped the folder with 2 fingers. That is exactly why you need to be smart. The room went very still. I understood him before he finished. He did not need to say, I can ruin you. He had already said it, just with quieter words. If you start changing your story now, he continued, they will ask why you lied before. They will ask why you opened the gate. They will ask why you waited. My throat tightened. Because he was right. That was the worst part. My silence had become a cage. Every minute I waited made the truth look weaker. Every lie I had let pass made his lie stronger. He leaned closer. You made one bad call. Do not make another. I looked at the photo of Ethan again. My son had a math test the next morning. He had asked me to quiz him after dinner. He still believed I could fix anything because I always came home in uniform, tired but standing. I wondered what he would think if I lost that uniform. If he heard adults whispering that his mother had lied. If my ex-husband used this to take him away from me. That thought almost broke me. Hayes saw it. Of course he did. People like him always notice the wound. Then they press exactly there. Rachel, he said, gentler now, I helped you when nobody else did. I looked at him. He kept going. I gave you flexibility. I backed you for promotion. I stood up for you after the divorce. Each sentence was a hook. Not kindness. A receipt. He had not helped me for free. He had saved every favor for this moment. You owe me trust, he said. That was when something inside me went quiet. Not calm. Not brave. Just clear. Because I finally understood the trap. He wanted me confused. Guilty. Grateful. Afraid. He wanted me thinking like a desperate woman, not like a staff sergeant who knew procedure. So I picked up my promotion folder. He watched my hand. What are you doing? I need copies of my documents. For what? I looked him straight in the eye. For my records. His expression hardened. You are making a mistake. No, I said. I already made one. I walked out before he could answer. My legs felt weak, but I did not stop. I went straight to the copy room, closed the door, and leaned against the machine until my breathing slowed. Then I noticed something strange. My hands were shaking, but my mind was working. I copied my promotion packet, my evaluations, my duty logs, my shift records, anything that showed where I had been and when. Then I opened my phone. The call from Hayes was still there. 11:58 p.m. I took a screenshot. Then another. Then I forwarded both to my personal email. It was not enough to save me, but it was something. For the first time all day, I had something he did not control. That night, I drove home in silence. Ethan was at the kitchen table with flashcards spread around him. He looked up and smiled like he had been waiting all day. Mom, quiz me, he said. I tried to smile back. But before I could answer, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then a text appeared. You do not know me, but I know what really happened on Old Mill Road. Do not trust Captain Hayes. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then it lit again in my hand. Ethan was still watching me from the kitchen table, one pencil tucked behind his ear. His flashcard sat between us like life was still normal. Like my biggest problem should have been multiplication and bedtime. Mom, he asked. I forced myself to breathe. Give me 2 minutes, sweetheart. I walked into the laundry room and closed the door halfway. The dryer was still warm from a load I had forgotten that morning. My uniform shirts lay inside, wrinkled and twisted together, and for some reason that almost made me cry. I looked back at the text. You do not know me, but I know what really happened on Old Mill Road. Do not trust Captain Hayes. My thumb hovered over the screen. Then another message came through. He was not alone. The room seemed to shrink around me. I typed with shaking fingers. Who is this? The answer came almost immediately. Someone who should have spoken up sooner. That was not enough. Not for my career. Not for my son. Not for the civilian driver sitting somewhere with injuries while my name was being dragged into a lie. If you know something, tell me now. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then the message came. Meet me tomorrow at 6:10 a.m. Parking lot behind Miller's Diner. Come alone. Do not tell anyone on base. I stared at the words and felt anger cut through the fear. Come alone. That was exactly how bad decisions started. I had already answered one private call. I had already gone to one dark road. I had already trusted one person who told me to keep things quiet. I was not doing that again. I took screenshots of every message. Then I forwarded them to my personal email, just like I had done with the call log. After that, I wrote down the number on the back of an old grocery receipt. Only then did I go back to the kitchen. Ethan looked up. You okay? I wanted to say yes. Mothers say yes even when their whole world is on fire. But my voice came out softer. I had a hard day. He nodded like he understood more than I wished he did. Because of work? Yeah, I said. Because of work. He pushed a flashcard toward me. Then ask me easy ones first. That broke something open in my chest. For 15 minutes, I quizzed my son while my phone sat face down beside my coffee cup. I smiled when he got answers right. I corrected him when he rushed. I kissed the top of his head when he groaned about division. But my mind was still on Old Mill Road. He was not alone. The next morning, I did not go alone. I parked 2 blocks from Miller's Diner at 5:52 a.m. The sky was still gray, and the streetlights made the wet pavement shine. I wore civilian clothes under a plain jacket, but I felt more exposed than I ever had in uniform. Before I got out, I sent the diner location and screenshots to Sergeant First Class Nolan. No long explanation. Just one line. This person claims to know what happened. I am going to hear them out. Maybe that was risky. Maybe it made me look desperate. But at least it was not silence. At 6:09, a silver sedan pulled into the back lot. A woman stepped out. She looked young, maybe 26. Dark hair pulled into a tight bun. No makeup. Big sweatshirt. Nervous eyes. I knew her. Specialist Jenna Ruiz. She worked in supply. My stomach tightened. Ruiz looked around twice before walking toward me. You should not have come, she said. You asked me to. I know. Her voice cracked. I panicked. I kept my hands visible. Calm. Steady. What do you know? She looked toward the diner windows, then back at me. I was in the Jeep. For a second, I could not process it. What? That night, she whispered. I was with Captain Hayes. The words landed slowly. Then all at once. Captain Hayes had not left base for some personal emergency. He had left with a young enlisted soldier. A soldier in his own company. A soldier he had no business being alone with after midnight in a government vehicle. Why? I asked, though part of me already knew. Ruiz looked down. It had been going on for 3 months. I felt the cold morning air move through my jacket. This was not just a traffic accident. This was not just unauthorized vehicle use. This was an officer hiding an inappropriate relationship, a damaged military vehicle, and a civilian injury. And somehow he had chosen me as the shield. This is insane, I whispered. Ruiz covered her mouth with one hand. He told me nobody would believe me. He said I would get charged too. He said you were already helping him, so it would be cleaner if your name stayed in it. My pulse roared in my ears. He said I was helping him? She nodded. He said you owed him. He said you would understand. For one moment, I saw the whole machine. The favors. The recommendation. The quiet praise. The flexible shifts. He had not just used my gratitude. He had built it carefully. What happened after the crash? I asked. Ruiz swallowed hard. We hit the truck. The driver got out. He was bleeding and yelling. Hayes told him we were calling it in. But he did not. No, she said. He drove away. My stomach turned. Was the driver conscious? Yes. But he was hurt. I looked away toward the road. All night, I had been afraid for my career. But someone else had been left bleeding on the side of a dark road. Because Captain Hayes was protecting his reputation. Because I stayed quiet. Ruiz started crying silently. I should have reported it. I know that. But he said he would ruin me. He said people would call me the problem. I wanted to be angry at her. Part of me was. But another part recognized that look. The look of someone who had been trapped by fear, rank, and shame. Do you have proof? I asked. She nodded and pulled out her phone. There are messages. Photos. He texted me after the crash. She unlocked the screen and showed me one message. Do not speak to anyone. Miller will handle the vehicle. My breath stopped. There it was. Not everything, but enough to crack his story open. Then Ruiz looked past my shoulder, and her face went white. I turned. Across the parking lot, a black truck had pulled in without headlights. Captain Hayes stepped out, holding his phone in his hand. And he was staring straight at us. Captain Hayes did not run. That was what scared me most. A guilty man should have looked nervous. He should have turned around, started his engine, and disappeared before anyone saw him. But Hayes walked toward us like he had every right to be there. Like we were the ones caught doing something wrong. Ruiz stepped back so fast her shoulder hit my arm. Oh my God, she whispered. He followed me. I kept my eyes on him. Stay where you are, I said quietly. I can't do this. Yes, you can. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Inside, my heart was hitting my ribs so hard it almost hurt. I had seen Hayes angry before. I had seen him cold. But I had never seen him without the mask completely. Now I did. His face was flat. No smile. No charm. No calm leader act. Just control. He stopped 10 feet away from us and looked at Ruiz first. Jenna, he said. Get in the truck. She flinched at the sound of her name. I stepped slightly in front of her. She is not going anywhere with you. His eyes moved to me. That small shift felt like a weapon turning. Rachel, you are making this worse. No, I said. You made it worse. He let out a quiet breath, almost like he was disappointed. You do not understand what she is doing. She is scared. She is confused. She is trying to save herself. Ruiz shook her head behind me. You told me Miller would take the blame, she said. Hayes looked at her sharply. Stop talking. The words cracked across the parking lot. A waitress inside the diner glanced out through the window. Hayes noticed and lowered his voice at once. Even then, even in that moment, he was managing the scene. That made me sick. I pulled out my phone. Sergeant First Class Nolan already has the messages. Hayes froze. Only for a second. But I saw it. What messages? He asked. The ones Ruiz sent me. The ones you sent her. His jaw tightened. You had no right to involve investigators without notifying your commander. I almost laughed. There it was again. Rank. Procedure. Fear. The same tools he had used from the start. You stopped being my commander the moment you tried to frame me. For the first time, his expression changed completely. Something ugly moved behind his eyes. You think they will believe you, he said. A divorced staff sergeant with money problems and a disciplinary interview already on record? I felt Ruiz stiffen behind me. The words hit exactly where he aimed them. My divorce. My debt. My fear of losing Ethan. All the private pain I had worked so hard to keep clean and separate from my uniform. He had remembered everything. Not because he cared. Because information is useful to people like him. They will ask why you lied, he continued. They will ask why you opened that gate. They will ask why you waited until now. My hand tightened around my phone. He was not wrong. That truth still stood between us like a wall. I had lied. I had opened the gate. I had waited. But for the first time, those facts did not make me want to hide. They made me want to stop running from them. Yes, I said. They will ask. Hayes blinked. I looked straight at him. And I will answer. His face hardened again. You will destroy your career. Maybe, I said. The word hurt. But it was honest. Maybe I already damaged it. But I am done helping you destroy it for me. Ruiz started crying again, quieter this time. Hayes looked at her. You understand you will go down with her, right? She covered her mouth. He took one step closer. You think people will call you a victim? They will call you a liar. They will say you chased attention. They will say you wanted special treatment. Her breathing changed. Too fast. Too shallow. I knew that sound. Panic. I turned just enough to speak to her. Jenna, look at me. She did. Do not answer him. Save your words for the investigator. Hayes laughed under his breath. The investigator? You mean Nolan? He shook his head. You really think he is coming here for a diner parking lot drama? Then, from behind his truck, another vehicle turned into the lot. A plain dark sedan. No flashing lights. No dramatic siren. Just two people inside, moving with purpose. Hayes looked back. His face changed before the car even stopped. Sergeant First Class Nolan stepped out first. The young legal officer from the day before got out on the passenger side. For the first time since I had met him, Captain Hayes looked afraid. Not loudly. Not visibly to everyone. But enough. His shoulders lowered by half an inch. His mouth opened, then closed. His phone disappeared into his pocket like it had suddenly become dangerous. Nolan walked toward us. Captain Hayes, he said. Step away from them. Hayes straightened. Sergeant First Class, this is a command matter. No, sir, Nolan said. Not anymore. The legal officer moved closer to Ruiz. Specialist Ruiz, are you willing to make a protected statement? Ruiz looked at Hayes. He stared back at her with pure warning in his eyes. For a second, I thought she would fold. Then she lifted her phone with both hands. Yes, she whispered. I have evidence. Nolan nodded. Staff Sergeant Miller? My throat went dry. This was the moment I had been avoiding since that dark road. The moment when silence stopped being protection and became guilt. I need to correct my previous statement, I said. The words shook, but they came out. Captain Hayes called me at 11:58 p.m. He told me he needed help. When I arrived, the Jeep was already damaged. The civilian truck was already off the road. Hayes turned toward me. Rachel. I did not look at him. He told me nobody was inside, I continued. He told me he would report it in the morning. Then he asked me to say the Jeep had stayed in the motor pool. Nolan listened without interrupting. I forced myself to keep going. I should have reported it immediately. I did not. I opened the gate. I gave a false explanation to the guard. That part is on me. Saying it out loud felt like stepping off a ledge. But I did not fall. Not yet. Hayes finally snapped. She is lying to cover herself. Nolan looked at him. Captain, you will have the opportunity to provide a formal statement. I already did. Yes, Nolan said. And now we have additional information. The legal officer gently took Ruiz aside. I saw her show the messages. I saw Nolan's face stay still as he read them. Then he looked once at Hayes, and I knew the balance had shifted. Not enough to save me, but enough to stop him from owning the story. That afternoon, they escorted Captain Hayes back to base separately. No handcuffs. No scene. No shouting. Just a quiet walk to a government vehicle. Somehow, that looked worse. By evening, rumors had spread through the company like smoke under a door. People stopped talking when I walked past. A private avoided my eyes. One lieutenant looked at me like I carried something contagious. I wanted to go home. I wanted to hold Ethan. Instead, I was ordered to remain available for further questioning. At 6:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was an email from the promotion board liaison. My review had been placed on hold pending investigation. I read the sentence 3 times. Then I sat alone in my car and finally cried. Not because Hayes had been caught. Because even the truth had a price. And the next morning, I learned that price was going to be much higher than I thought. The next morning, I was told not to report to my unit. Just like that. No shouting. No explanation in the hallway. No chance to stand in front of my soldiers and act normal. A senior NCO called before sunrise and said, "Staff Sergeant Miller, you are temporarily reassigned to administrative holding pending review." Administrative holding. It sounded clean, almost harmless. But I knew what it meant. It meant I was too damaged to be trusted, but not guilty enough to remove. It meant people could whisper without saying my name. It meant every door opened slower when I walked toward it. I sat on the edge of my bed with the phone in my hand. Ethan was still asleep down the hall. His school backpack sat by the front door, half-zipped, with one sneaker beside it. My coffee maker clicked in the kitchen like this was any other morning. But nothing was normal anymore. By 8 a.m., I was sitting in a small office near the legal building. The walls were beige. The chair was hard. A clock ticked louder than it needed to. Sergeant First Class Nolan came in with a young legal officer. Her name was Lieutenant Parks. She looked tired, but not unkind. "Staff Sergeant Miller," she said, "we need to be direct." That sentence always means pain is coming. I folded my hands in my lap. "Okay." She opened a folder. "You corrected your statement yesterday. That matters. The evidence from Specialist Ruiz also matters." I waited. "But you still gave a false explanation to the gate guard. You still failed to immediately report a damaged government vehicle. And you still allowed a commander's misconduct to remain hidden for several hours." Every word was true. That was what made it worse. I wanted to say I had been scared. I wanted to say Hayes outranked me. I wanted to say he knew exactly how to trap me. But fear does not erase his signature. And silence does not become clean just because someone powerful asked for it. "I understand," I said. Lieutenant Parks watched me carefully. "There may be administrative action." My throat tightened. Could I lose my promotion? She did not answer fast enough. That was the answer. "Yes," she said. "It is possible." The room blurred for 1 second. I thought about every morning I had run before sunrise. Every weekend I had missed with Ethan. Every class, every evaluation, every extra duty I accepted because I believed hard work could still move my life forward. And now one night could bury all of it. "What about Captain Hayes?" I asked. Nolan leaned forward. "He is under investigation for several matters." Several. That word stayed with me. Not one bad decision. Not one accident. Several. Lieutenant Parks glanced at Nolan, then back at me. "There is also an issue with your earlier performance records." I frowned. "What issue?" She slid a document across the table. It was a copy of a counseling statement. My name was on it. My signature was not. I stared at the page. It said I had been warned 2 months earlier for poor judgment involving vehicle access procedures. It said Captain Hayes had verbally corrected me after an unauthorized movement of equipment. None of it had happened. "This is fake," I said. Nolan nodded slightly. "We are looking into that." My anger came so fast it almost steadied me. Hayes had not built his lie after the crash. He had started building it before. He had created a paper trail in case he ever needed one. Maybe not for this exact night. Maybe for any moment when I became useful as a shield. The room felt smaller. "This is insane," I whispered. Lieutenant Parks looked at me with something close to sympathy. "We need everything you have. Every message. Every email. Every calendar note. Anything that shows your real duty history." I already copied my records. Nolan's eyes lifted. "When?" "After Hayes threatened me." For the first time, he almost smiled. Good. That one word kept me standing. For the next 3 hours, I handed over pieces of my life. Call logs. Screenshots. Duty schedules. Email timestamps. Copies of my promotion packet. Notes I had written after meetings because old habits had taught me to document everything. At noon, I stepped outside and called my mother. I hated doing it. My mother loved me, but she panicked like it was a family tradition. Still, I needed someone to pick Ethan up from school if this dragged into the evening. She answered on the second ring. "Rachel? What's wrong?" I closed my eyes. "I need help with Ethan today." "What happened?" I looked across the parking lot at the flag moving in the wind. A week earlier, that flag had made me feel steady. Now I felt like I had failed everything under it. "I made a mistake at work," I said. "And I am trying to fix it." There was silence. Then her voice softened. "Are you safe?" That question almost broke me. Yes. Then we will handle the rest. I stood there holding the phone, fighting tears in broad daylight. Because sometimes the first step out of a lie is telling one small truth to someone who loves you. That evening, I finally got home after dark. Ethan was on the couch with my mother, eating cereal from a bowl too big for him. He jumped up when he saw me. "Mom, Grandma said you had a work emergency." I looked at my mother. She gave me a small nod. I knelt in front of Ethan. I did. "Are you in trouble?" I could have lied. A gentle lie. A mother's lie. But I was so tired of lies. "I might be," I said. "But I am telling the truth now." His face got serious. "Will you still be in the army?" The question went straight through me. "I hope so." He wrapped his arms around my neck. I held him too tightly, then loosened my grip when I realized it. My mother looked away, pretending to fix the blanket. Later that night, after Ethan was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. I searched my old emails for anything from Hayes. Most were ordinary. Training schedules, staff notes, promotion reminders. Then I found one from 3 months earlier. The subject line was blank. The message had only one sentence. "Some people survive in this army because they know when to stay quiet." I read it once. Then again. My hands went cold. At the time, I had thought it was about office politics. Now I was not so sure. I forwarded it to Lieutenant Parks. Then another email appeared in my inbox. No name, no subject, just an attachment. My heart started pounding before I opened it. The file was a short video. Dark road, rain on glass, a dashboard view, the blue pickup, the impact, Captain Hayes' voice, and then Specialist Ruiz screaming, "You hit him. Stop the car." I sat frozen in the kitchen light. Because the video did not just show the crash. It showed me arriving 10 minutes later. For a full minute, I could not move. The video kept playing in my head, even after the screen went black. The blue pickup sliding sideways. The scream. Captain Hayes' voice. Then me, 10 minutes later, stepping into the headlights like a fool walking into a trap someone had already set. I watched it again. Not because I wanted to. Because I needed to understand what it proved. The footage came from inside another vehicle. Whoever recorded it had been parked farther down Old Mill Road, behind a line of trees. The angle was shaky, but clear enough. Clear enough to show Captain Hayes behind the wheel. Clear enough to show the Jeep hitting the pickup. Clear enough to show the Jeep leaving before I arrived. And clear enough to show me later, standing there confused, while Hayes pointed at the damaged bumper and talked with his hands like a man explaining an accident he had already rewritten. I covered my mouth. This video could save me, but it could also destroy me, because it showed the truth. All of it, including the part where I did not call anyone. I forwarded the file to Lieutenant Parks with one sentence. "I just received this. I do not know who sent it." Then I sat there in the kitchen until my legs started shaking. My mother came in wearing her old blue robe. "Rachel," she whispered. I turned the laptop toward her. She watched the video without saying a word. When it ended, she looked at me the way mothers look when they see their child bleeding in a place they cannot bandage. "You were scared," she said. I shook my head. I was wrong. Both can be true. I wanted that to comfort me. It did not. The next morning, Lieutenant Parks called before 7 a.m. Her voice was calm, but sharper than before. "Do not discuss the video with anyone outside legal and investigators." I understand. "Do you recognize the recording vehicle?" "No." "Did Captain Hayes know about this video?" "I don't think so." There was a pause. That may be why someone sent it anonymously. By noon, everything changed. Captain Hayes was formally suspended from command pending investigation. Specialist Ruiz was moved to another unit for protection. The civilian driver's attorney contacted the Army again, this time with a statement that matched the video. And me? I was still in administrative holding. That was the part nobody in movies tells you. The truth does not walk in and fix everything at once. Sometimes it just turns on the lights. Then you have to stand there while everyone sees the mess. 2 days later, I gave my full sworn statement. This time, I did not soften anything. I said Hayes called me privately. I said I found the Jeep damaged. I said he told me nobody was inside the truck. I said he asked me to hide the vehicle movement. Then I said the hardest part. I knew it should be reported, and I did not report it. Lieutenant Parks looked up. Why? The room was quiet. No vent humming this time. No papers moving. Just that question sitting in front of me. Why? Because I wanted my promotion. Because I owed him favors. Because I was tired of fighting alone. Because I let rank sound like truth. Because I confused gratitude with loyalty. Because I was afraid, I said. And because I convinced myself silence was not the same as lying. The words hurt coming out. But once they were out, I felt something loosen. Not relief. Something cleaner. A week later, I was called before a senior review panel. 3 officers. 2 senior NCOs. 1 recorder typing every word. My uniform was perfect. My stomach was not. They asked about the gate. They asked about my first statement. They asked why I had contacted Nolan before meeting Ruiz. They asked why I had saved records before anyone told me to. I answered everything. No excuses. No speeches. Just the truth, even when it made me look smaller. When they dismissed me, I walked outside and found Specialist Ruiz sitting on a bench near the sidewalk. She stood when she saw me. Her face looked pale and exhausted. I'm sorry, she said. I looked at her for a long moment. Part of me still blamed her. Part of me understood her too well. I am sorry too, I said. She started crying. He said he loved me, she whispered. Then the second things went bad, I became evidence. That sentence stayed with me. Because that was what men like Hayes did. They did not love people. They collected people. They collected favors, secrets, weakness, loneliness. Then, when the wall started falling, they threw those people underneath it and called it survival. 3 weeks passed before I received the decision. I opened the email alone in my car because I did not trust my knees. Captain Hayes was facing criminal and administrative proceedings. The fake counseling statement had been traced back through his login. The video confirmed he was driving. The messages confirmed he tried to control Ruiz and use my name. My promotion packet would remain delayed. I would receive a formal reprimand for failing to report immediately and giving a false explanation to the gate guard. Not career-ending, but permanent enough to hurt. I sat there staring at the screen. I had kept my rank. I had kept my job. But I had not walked away clean. And maybe I was not supposed to. That evening, I told Ethan a simple version. I told him I trusted the wrong person at work. I told him I stayed quiet when I should have spoken up. I told him I was trying to repair it. He listened with his serious little face. Then he asked, "Did you tell the truth after?" I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "I did." He thought about that. "Then you can still be my mom." I laughed and cried at the same time. Because children do not always understand careers, investigations, or shame. But sometimes they understand the one thing adults forget. You can make a mistake without becoming the mistake. The next morning, I returned to my unit building for the first time. People watched me walk in. Some looked away. Some whispered. One young private held the door and said, "Morning, Staff Sergeant." It nearly broke me. I stepped into my old office, expecting it to feel different. It did. Captain Hayes's nameplate was gone. His desk was empty. And on my chair sat a sealed envelope with no return name. Inside was a printed photo of the blue pickup from the night of the crash. On the back, someone had written 5 words. Ask what Hayes was hiding. I stood in the empty office with the envelope in my hand. 5 words. Ask what Hayes was hiding. For a moment, I wanted to rip the photo in half. Not because I did not care. Because I was tired. Tired of secrets. Tired of screenshots. Tired of waking up each morning wondering which piece of truth would cut me next. But this time, I did not chase the mystery alone. I walked straight to Lieutenant Parks. No private calls. No parking lots. No quiet favors. Just the right door, in daylight, with evidence in my hand. She read the words on the back of the photo twice. Then she looked at Nolan, who was standing near the window. "Do you know who sent this?" she asked. "No," I said. "And I am not guessing." Nolan took the photo carefully. "That is growth, Staff Sergeant." It was the closest thing to a compliment he had ever given me. 2 days later, I learned the rest. The civilian driver was named Mark Ellison. He was not just some random man on Old Mill Road. He was a contractor who had worked with vehicle maintenance near the base. And he had been asking questions. Missing parts. Strange fuel charges. Repair records that did not match actual damage. Government property that seemed to disappear, then quietly reappear after inspections. At first, nobody wanted to believe it. Hayes was polished, respected, careful. Men like him survive because they know how to look trustworthy in rooms where people are tired. But Mark had kept copies, receipts, photos, dates, names. That night, Hayes had gone out to meet him. Not to fix anything, to scare him into silence. Specialist Ruiz had been in the Jeep because Hayes had told her it was personal. He had made her feel chosen, trusted, special. Then, when everything went wrong, he made her feel disposable. Just like he had done to me. The crash was not planned. But the cover-up was. That was the part that stayed with me. One mistake can happen fast. A cover-up takes choices. Hayes made choice after choice after choice. And I had helped him make one of them. Months passed before my life felt steady again. Captain Hayes was removed from command. More charges followed, and I stopped asking for every detail. I gave what I knew. I answered what I was asked. Then I let the process move without trying to control it. Specialist Ruiz transferred out. Before she left, she found me outside the building. I wish I had been stronger, she said. I looked at her for a long second. So do I said. For both of us. That was the truth. Not cruel. Not soft. Just honest. My promotion did not happen that year. That hurt more than I admitted to anyone. I watched another name get called. I clapped with everyone else. I smiled because bitterness was not going to give me back what I lost. But later, in my car, I cried again. Not loudly. Just enough to let the grief leave my body. I kept serving. That was my choice. Some people expected me to quit. Others expected me to walk around ashamed forever. But I had a son watching me, and I needed him to see something important. You do not rebuild your name by pretending nothing happened. You rebuild it by standing where the damage is. Slowly, people came back. Not all at once. A private asked for help with a training issue. Then a corporal asked me to review a report. Then one morning, a young soldier stood in my doorway with fear written across her face. "Staff Sergeant," she said, "can someone punish me for reporting something?" I put down my coffee. "Sit down," I said. She did. And for the first time, I understood what my mistake could become. Not just a scar. A warning light. I told her the truth in plain words. No commander should ask you to lie. No favor is worth your integrity. And if someone says, "Keep this between us," that is when you start documenting. A year later, my promotion packet went forward again. This time, I did not feel excited when I signed it. I felt quiet, careful, different. When the approval came, I was sitting at the kitchen table with Ethan. He was older by then, taller, already too cool for half my hugs. I read the email twice. Then I slid the laptop toward him. He grinned. "Does this mean I have to salute you at home?" I laughed for the first time in what felt like months. "No," I said. "It means you still have to take out the trash." He groaned like I had ruined his life. That night, after he went to bed, I took my old reprimand letter from the file cabinet. I did not throw it away. I kept it. Not because I was proud of it. Because I needed to remember the woman who stood on that dark road and almost gave her life away for someone else's lie. I needed to remember how easy it is to confuse pressure with duty. How easy it is to mistake silence for loyalty. How easy it is to let someone powerful use your fear against you. I never found out who sent the video. Nolan said it came from an untraceable email. Parks said not to chase ghosts. Maybe it was Mark. Maybe it was someone else Hayes had hurt. Maybe someone finally got tired of watching him win. I stopped needing to know. What mattered was what I did after. Because the truth does not always save you cleanly. Sometimes it saves you with bruises. Sometimes it takes your promotion, your pride, and your peace for a while. But a lie takes more. A lie takes your voice. And I had already given mine away once. I was never going to do that again. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Write in the comments if you would have told the truth right away.